Look, guys, I'm human. I made a mistake. I'm sure you guys have all heard about it by now. Last year, I promised you guys that by the time the 2023 Game Awards came around, that I would have both Ori and the Blind Forest and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 finished, and even Ori and the Will of the Wisps too. And I didn't. I lied to you guys, and I hope that you can forgive me and that we can move past this, because I'm learning. I'm trying to be better. I can't change anything that I've said or anything that I've done. I can only change what's coming. So I really hope that you guys believe me and know that I really am sorry.
Hoecherl. Here we are, back again a year later. How are you feeling?
I am so good. I love our Game of the Year episode from last year, and I have been so excited to record this.
I was getting really excited as I was putting together all of my nominees. Before we get into that, let's address the question of the day.
Of course.
Which came from Qualthorn.
Nope. It came from JC Hansen.
I'm sorry, JC Hansen. You're right. Most hyped game for 2024?
Let's hear it.
So I can't really think of any games releasing next year that I'm excited for, let alone any game that's releasing next year. So I'm just going to say, kind of like what you were saying earlier, the game that I'm personally planning on playing next year, which is Horizon Forbidden Forest, Forbidden West. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to that.
It's coming to PC. You? It's coming to PC soon.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I did say that before the episode. So I'm actually going to give you two. Again, that's kind of my thing. I always give two answers to these questions. As far as game that I know that I'm going to play next year, like without a doubt, Returnal. It's a little... Have you heard of Returnal? We've talked about Returnal before.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very excited to play that. But then I also realized that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out next year in just a few months. And considering how much I love the remake, I am very excited for that. I don't know if I'll play it in 2024. I do need a little bit of a break before I go back into that game. And I've got a lot of other games on the docket that I want to get through first. But out of what's coming next year, that's probably my top pick. I just barely remembered that that's coming out in like a few months. So
that's a good pick, actually.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, here we go. Just to lay the foundation, so all of you know, the Game Awards from the Hoecherl's Game Awards is not based on what games released in 2023. It's based on what games we played in 2023. It is completely subjective. It's meant to be subjective. We're just telling you which games we like the most, so that maybe you might have an interest and check it out too.
Right. And since we do it that way, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what I've played this year, just so you know what I'm taking into consideration for my awards, and you'll do the same in just a second, right?
Yep.
Okay. So first off, Retro Bowl and Hoop League, 2 mobile games, Stardew Valley, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Boomerang Fu, which was name dropped in our Discord. It's a lot of fun. It's a good game. Just putting that out there.
It is fun. We also like to call it Boomerang FU in our family.
Sounds about right. Grease, Eastward, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, Celeste, Astro's Playroom, Spider-Man 2018, Bowser's Fury, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, those are the games that I've played through and completed. Now, this next section of games are games that I've played. I didn't finish, but they're still eligible for awards. Hogwarts Legacy, Super Mario 3D World. Oh, I did complete that, actually. That's my mistake. Kirby and the Forgotten World, Ori and the Blind Forest, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And I did play a Pokemon Sword Nuzlocke that I failed in like the second to last battle, if you remember. That was painful.
I forgot about that.
That was painful.
Here's mine. Mine's not as orderly, but Pokemon White, nice. I finished that. Horizon Zero Dawn, that was a replay. I did not finish that. Fire Emblem Engage, I finished that. Ocarina of Time multiplayer, that is not yet finished. That's an Ocarina of Time mod, by the way, on PC. Smash Ultimate, you can never finish that game. Rivals of Aether, you can never finish that game. Cyberpunk 2077, not finished. Skatebird, not finished. No Man's Sky, not finished. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, that was a replay and is not finished. Koromon, not finished. Tears of the Kingdom, that is complete. Pokemon Trading Card Game, that is complete. Nier Automata, complete. Pokemon X, that's complete. Pokemon Altered Emerald, that's an Emerald ROM hack, that is not complete.
But almost, right?
Almost,
okay,
yeah.
That's right.
I'm in the Elite Four right now. And Titanfall 2, that is not complete. That's an multiplayer game, so you can't really finish it. But I do have some like modded games and ROM hacks in here. I am going to leave those out.
Of consideration?
Okay. Yeah. Just for simplicity's sake. Because like, if I say, hey, I love playing Ocarina of Time multiplayer, most of our listeners aren't going to be able to just go out and do that.
Yeah, that was my main question as far as which ones are included versus not. But okay. Yeah. Cool. Are we ready? Are you ready? Have you prepared yourself? Okay.
Let's go straight into the first category.
Community Voice Award, the most consistently active voice in the DownNotableContent community.
Before we get into our first award, we do want to say thank you to our Patreon producers who are presenting this show to you guys today. We are very, very grateful for Grandpappy, Tyler, and Joshua. You guys have been amazing throughout this year, and we're very grateful for your support.
Thank you. We love you all.
Now, the Community Voice Award. We wanted to bring this to you to highlight the Discord community and those of you who have taken part of what we're trying to create in there. We're very excited about what has come so far and what is coming up. And as we were talking about this, we came up with this idea to highlight one user in specifically, just to give them that love that we feel they deserve. Correct?
Yep.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Nope.
Okay. So who is the recipient of our Community Voice Award for this year, SJ?
That is going to be Qualthorn. We have great Discord members in there, but Qualthorn has been, in our opinion, the most proactive and post cool stuff in there all the time, and we are so appreciative of that because it helps to really drive the discussions in there and help move the community forward. It's been the most engaging. And also want to thank you to obviously everyone else, for being in there and chatting and stuff.
But yeah, we love all of you, and there you go. You ready to move on to our next award?
Yes.
Best Content Creator, SJ and Alex's favorites for the year.
So should I go first?
Go for it.
I only have two for this.
Okay.
Best Content Creator, and this is like, I just kept it to like, the family-friendly content creators that I listen to. And particularly on... actually, you know what? I'm going to say three.
Okay.
Nintendo Voice Chat That is IGN's podcast, and I like them more than most Nintendo podcasts. And I think they make great content and have great commentary. So they are one of the nominees. And the other two are Point Crow. He is a YouTuber. And Zeltic, also a YouTuber.
Classic.
For this year, for me, it's going to have to go to Zeltic.
Okay.
Primarily because during the hype leading up to Tears of the Kingdom, and analysis of Tears of the Kingdom trailer videos, you really cannot go wrong with Zeltic videos, and I really, really appreciated his stuff, and it's incredibly researched in detail.
Nice.
Who's yours?
My nominees are Girlfriend Reviews, who do funny YouTube videos about new games. What Culture Gaming, specifically their podcast branch, and Scott the Woz. My runner-up this year is Scott the Woz. I think his historical videos are fascinating. He is such a good writer and presents a bunch of information that I've never heard before. But my winner is What Culture Gaming. There's a few reasons. First off, their podcast puts out 3 episodes a week. That's
insane.
A lot of content. And each of those 3 episodes, there's 3 different sub-shows that they do within it. They do what's called the wind-up, where they pick a topic, where they just go for 40 minutes, and it's topics that both presenters are passionate about, so that they can just go for 40 minutes off of something. They have their traditional podcast, which is more of like a news outlet, reporting on what's going on in the industry. And then their 3rd episode is called the Untitled Banter Podcast, where they just answer as many questions as they can from their community.
Okay.
The level of content is insane. One presenter who's on every single show, his name is Scott Tailford. He is an incredible writer, very educated, and has been a part of gaming since like the early 1990s. So he knows like everything, and he plays everything. So he brings like this very experienced, knowledgeable self with him. And then usually his co-host is someone who doesn't have as much experience. His name is Josh Brown. But he relies a bit more on like the passion and opinions that he has. And so it's funny because Scott sounds so professional and so incredible as he's talking, but I disagree with like all of his personal opinions. And then when it comes to Josh is definitely a bit more casual, but like all of his opinions, I'm like, yes, like that is what gaming should be. That's what I'm looking for. And so their content is just routinely creative and entertaining, and the level of output that they put out at is absolutely insane. So
I may have to check that out. You've mentioned them before.
I fully recommend them to like literally anybody.
Yeah.
They're a phenomenal podcast.
Good stuff. Congrats to the winners. Ready to move on?
Yep.
Most innovative. Games that innovate the medium.
Oh, do you want to start first on this one?
Yeah.
Who's your nominees?
So most innovative, I brought up Final Fantasy VII Remake, Bowser's Fury, Astro's Playroom, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and Grease. My runner-up is Tears of the Kingdom, because the crafting mechanics in that and all the different things that you can build with the tools that they give you is insane. I think it's phenomenal and the best that I've personally experienced in that type of mechanic. But my winner is Astro's Playroom for one main reason. We talked recently, I don't know if it was a Patreon episode or not, about like the future of gaming. Now that consoles are getting so powerful, like where do we have left to go?
Yeah.
And you brought up stuff like ray tracing and SSD, and I absolutely agree. But after having a PlayStation 5 myself, haptics are the way of the future.
I didn't even consider that. I 100% agree.
I think haptics are where we go from here, and Astro's Playroom highlights the potential of haptics so incredibly well. And to create a game that references everything that PlayStation's ever done and give you a controller where you feel the game more, as far as like your actual controller, how it feels, more than anything I've ever played. I couldn't think of any other game that deserved innovation in gaming more, because it's everything that we've come to and then where we're going from here.
That's a good one. That's a good pick. My nominees are Nier Automata, Tears of the Kingdom, Cyberpunk 2077, and Titanfall 2. Runner-up is Nier Automata. It's really innovative in that I've never played any other game like it. Really in like... And when I think innovation, I'm thinking mostly about the gameplay, how you engage with the video game, haptics, stuff like that. So the way it switches seamlessly from 3D action into, 2D platforming / action into, this little like shooter scenarios and sections like that is absolutely brilliant and seamless and amazing. And it's so cool that all of that cohesively work together in one video game.
Can I ask a question about that? Would you want to see that more in other games in the future? And then I have a follow-up question to that as well.
Only if it makes sense. That's the thing.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah.
And so cool. What do you think as far as genre or stories or scenarios? Like, what would make sense to have a similar type of mashup work together in a way that works as well as it did in Nier?
In my mind, it works great because there's no loading screens in between. So it's all meshed together well. And from the perspective of like the narrative of the story, like in terms of what's going on, it makes sense that you would do both of those different things. So as long as it doesn't feel forced, like I don't want to play video game and have a whole bunch of genres in one game just for the sake of having that. If it feels like crammed in, then I'm not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
My winner is Tears of the Kingdom. It's just gotta be. I have a little bit of recency bias toward Nier Automata with a lot of emotions and stuff, and I recognize that. But when I took a step back and thought about what is the most innovative, Nintendo just does not miss. And Tears of the Kingdom, yes, it looks a lot like Breath of the Wild, and there are a lot of similarities to Breath of the Wild, but the stuff that you mentioned, you can build things, the way Link can move around differently now, ascend, that one ability alone is so innovative and makes climbing up and down like not tedious anymore. It's not tedious to do that anymore. It's fun. Just all the new abilities that they introduced in that game are so innovative. And yeah, I mean, what other game can you think of that lets you like build a literal tank or like any random crazy machine? YouTubers are always coming up with different stuff, and I love watching those videos.
Right, and it's like completely limited by the player. Like, what can you do? I mean, I've seen people make like fighter jets that are dropping bombs. Like, I never even thought to consider doing that. But
it's so cool. Like, it literally your imagination is your limit,
and it works. Like, how does it work? How did Nintendo code a way for it to all work? It's
not buggy. That's
an incredible achievement.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Nice.
All right,
good pick.
Best soundtrack. Games with the best audio design and music.
I'll go first this time.
Okay.
Best soundtrack. So this includes just like pure music, but also like the sounds, that might include like sound effects and whatever, all of that stuff.
All of it.
All sound design. Nier Automata, Tears of the Kingdom, Pokemon White, Fire Emblem Engage.
Ooh.
Those are my
Ooh.
nominees.
It's gonna be tough.
Real quick, I just want to give a honorable mention to Pokemon White because, man, that game has good music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh. I did not realize when I started playing that game, but it was a delight. But the runner-up is going to be Fire Emblem Engage.
Wow.
Fire Emblem has really, really good music, and Engage does not miss. But I don't think it was quite as strong as Three Houses. It's not quite as iconic, but it's still really, really good. The winner is going to be Nier Automata.
Yep.
And I just go to Spotify, Apple Music, or whatever, and look up the Nier Automata soundtrack. You can find it. Listen to all of it. It's so good. And that's just the music, you know. We're not even talking about, like, how that music interacts with you. Like, I've talked about this before, so I'm not going to go into it again. But in particular, I think my favorite song from that game is called Voice of No Return. Go look that up. I recommend it. It's really good. You'll probably think that it's a pretty song, but if you've played the video game, it'll be infinitely more beautiful. Because that's the thing with all the music in this game, is that they are, when you hear the music, you're going to remember the events that took place when that music was playing. And that to me is proof of how much impact it had.
Yeah. And I'll just second that. As you guys know, I haven't played Nier, but I have listened to the soundtrack. It's phenomenal. It's really good stuff. And I would recommend City of Ruins Ray of Light. That's my personal favorite from the bunch. But my nominees are Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Celeste, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Grease, and Astro's Playroom. I do want to give a shout out to Final Fantasy VII Remake, specifically Let the Battle Begin. The fact that the entire thing is fully orchestrated, that battle theme is one of the greatest pieces of video game music ever.
I agree.
Ever.
I agree.
But I couldn't give it anything more than that because there are parts of the soundtrack where I'm like, okay, I don't remember this at all, or it just doesn't hit for me. You got to remember, I didn't grow up with the game. Okay, please don't kill me when you hear that, because I know that that's like one of the most revered soundtracks ever.
Yeah.
My runner-up is Tears of the Kingdom. Very similar to Breath of the Wild, but the new tracks I feel are so good. Add a lot to the game, and the Colgera theme when Dragon Roost Island comes in. We already talked about this, but come on, man.
Oh my gosh.
Come on. My winner is Grease. Similar to what you were saying about how those songs mean more to you because you've played the game. I have the entire Grease album. It's about an hour and a half long on my study playlist, and I'll listen through it regularly in order. And I can tell you when those songs transition to different moments in the game and what's going on and what that character is experiencing.
Wow. That's cool.
It's like very, I'm trying to think of like how to describe it just as a sound. It's very like echoey in the fact that you'll get like percussion instruments that have these like really high pitched tones, and then that's contrasted with like sweeping violins and pianos and like just kind of an overall electronic sound. But it's by Berlinist and it is on Apple Music. I'm pretty sure it's on Spotify too. I'd recommend that as well. It is like a very calming soundtrack overall. So definitely go check it out because it is one of my favorite video game soundtracks ever. Not just this year, but ever. And I finished Grease back in like February.
I was going to say, you were playing it at the end of last year.
So the recency bias is gone. Like, this isn't just me like, oh, it's so... No, like, it has stuck with me throughout the year. So,
very good.
Best multiplayer. Games with the best overall multiplayer experience, online or offline.
Multiplayer.
Multiplayer.
You want to go first?
Yep. My nominees are Super Mario 3D World, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Boomerang Fu. My runner-up is Smash. Come on, it's Smash Brothers. I love Smash. I had to give it the running it up place. But my winner is Super Mario 3D World. I will say this is probably the most biased of my awards this year. It's because I played through it with my wife. We started on my honeymoon and we finished it like a week ago. And it was fun. I mean, I was telling you this during lunch. It was a little bit contentious at some places. We both like to be like the leader. And so there was a little bit of conflict, but very, very fun. And I definitely, for me, I looked at this as how much can I enjoy this game on my own versus how much more do I enjoy it because of multiplayer features. Mm-hmm. And I think playing through this game alone wouldn't have been nearly as fun, but because I played it with my wife, I had a lot of fun. And I played all these games with my wife, and yet Mario 3D World stands on top as the best multiplayer experience I had this year.
I did a similar thing with Yoshi's Woolly World. I really like that game. Playing it with my wife. That wasn't this year, though. My nominees are Titanfall 2, Smash Ultimate, Rivals of Aether, and Mario Kart 8.
Nice.
I actually frantically changed my last nominee as you brought up Mario Kart. I don't know why. I completely forgot about the existence of Mario Kart. I had another game on there, but I replaced it with that.
Who did you eliminate, just out of curiosity?
Fortnite.
Interesting.
Because I played a couple rounds of Fortnite with a good friend from the ward.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I suck at it. I suck so bad. So I feel like I'm not qualified to really say much about it. So I took it off and replaced it with Mario Kart.
Nice.
I honestly don't think I've ever sucked so bad at a video game as I have in Fortnite. Like, oh my gosh. Like, no joke. Like, I am the worst at, like, every other game I've played in my whole life, I'm better at than Fortnite.
Wow.
At least to some degree.
No, I remember, I brought this up to you when we talked about it before, but do you remember when it first came out and we were playing together on our phones?
Yeah, we played, yeah.
It was you and me, and I died first and I was watching you, and then you got killed after it, and we were just like, wow, we're good at this.
We were done after like one or two.
It was matches. 1 round. Yeah, we were never again.
I think our little podcast mascot wants to come out, so I'm gonna grab her real quick.
Okay, no worries. I will go ahead and entertain the audience. For y'all, we would love to hear about your own multiplayer experiences. Are you the type of people where you like cooperative multiplayer or co-op features where you're playing against each other and trying to compete and prove that you are the better player? I feel like that's a big separation in the co-op landscape of video games.
My goodness.
So you're going to have to let us know.
That's a good point, though.
But we will go ahead and get back. And what is your...
Oh.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Oh my gosh, she's going crazy. Okay. Runner-up is Rivals of Aether. It is... The only reason why I put it higher than Smash Ultimate is because it has way better online. Like, the online is so good. The online is so good. So it has something called rollback netcode. You can Google that if you want to know what that is. It basically makes it so that there's hardly any input latency. So it's the closest thing you can get to like sitting together on a couch. But you can be like on the other side of the country and still have a really good experience playing against each other. The winner though is going to be Titanfall 2. So Titanfall is a game that a good friend of mine purchased for me. He said, "You need to play this game. I think you'd like it." And I tried it out, and I did like it. I was initially kind of like a little skittish because, I don't know, competitive shooters, it's hit and miss for me. But it's like really easy to get into. But like the skill ceiling is also really high. And that is a really good multiplayer game in my mind. And one of these days I'll probably do like a full review of the game or something once I've had more time in it.
Yeah, nice.
But it was good.
There you go.
Best overworld. Games with the most captivating and immersive overworlds.
I'll go first. Best overworld. Tears of the Kingdom. Nier Automata. Cyberpunk 2077. And Horizon Zero Dawn.
My glasses.
Oh no. Runner up is Cyberpunk 2077. So this game has, like, I'm playing on patch like 2.0 or later. So like I feel like it's what the developers intended it to be initially. Like the city feels alive. There's people everywhere. There's cars everywhere. Like it's just so packed full of like life, you know, and it's really good. I mean, the whole game is basically an overworld. So my winner though is going to be Tears of the Kingdom.
Wow.
Because also like Cyberpunk, the entire game is an overworld. There's really no differentiation. And the way that you can interact with the world and the way that different side quests and characters are embedded into the world are just, it's just so seamless and so good. I mean, if it had been Breath of the Wild that came out this year instead of Tears of the Kingdom, I would have given it to Breath of the Wild. You know, just both of those games just have fantastic worlds. Yeah.
Definitely. My nominees are Astro's Playroom, Eastward, Grease, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and Spider-Man PS4. Now, my runner-up is Grease. I love that world. I love the kind of emotion dreamscape that you go through that world, and there's some very, very beautiful locations. But my winner is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
I was going to say, I swear, if like Eastward takes away like the whole thing. And
I love the Eastward world. But Tears of the Kingdom, I mean, for every reason that you said, and also I think the fact that it is a sequel actually worked to its advantage this time. Usually that kind of hurts games in award season. But here, the fact that I'm coming back to this world that I've spent so much time in, and yet there's still new stuff, there's changes, there's the Sky Islands, and then the entire depth segment that you can go through that's all brand new, and towns are different. Like Kakariko Village, the experience in Kakariko Village is very different this time around. It plays a pretty minor and non-existent role until you're getting towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
You know, the things that each of those species or those races of people are living through is different.
That's
like
a
I
good
just
point.
had so much fun exploring all the differences. Being like, yeah, this is different from Breath of the Wild, but means just as much as that game did to me when it came out in 2017.
That is a really good point, because having played Breath of the Wild, you're able to see the contrast, like what's changed, and almost everything has changed in the world.
Oh yeah,
And it's really cool to see that. Yeah.
like
And characters too.
yeah, seeing the same characters that you had from years ago come back, it's outstanding.
Yeah. Some are exactly the same. Some are a little different. Some are drastically different.
Exactly.
Best art style. Games with the most creative and beautiful art styles that set themselves apart.
Best art style.
Yeah.
This one was actually probably the easiest award for me to decide. My nominees are Tears of the Kingdom, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Eastward, Astro's Playroom, in Greece. My runner-up is Tears of the Kingdom. I love how this game looks, and I love how the locations themselves look. Like, they're very, very aesthetically pleasing to look at, especially the Sky Islands. I love how the Sky Islands have a very fall aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
Is she biting my head? Okay, never mind. She's not. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I just love how everything looks in this game. I think it's just, nothing more to say on that. But the winner is Greece. Come on. How could it be anything but Greece?
I kind of saw that coming.
The 2D animation, the fact that your HUD, your heads-up display, is completely empty. Like, you don't have a health bar, so you're just taking in the world and nothing else. There are areas that are very, like, geometric and shape-based, and then areas that are entirely based on, like, watercolor aesthetics. The way that characters and, other creatures in the world move is very flowy. I'm a big fan of 2D animation in just about any medium, and so to see it done so well in this game, it was legitimately easy. Like, I don't think there was ever a question in my mind that anything but Greece was going to be the winner for this one for me.
Well, very cool. My nominees are Tears of the Kingdom, Nier Automata, Fire Emblem Engage, and Skatebird.
Skatebird, let's go.
So my nominee or runner-up is going to be Fire Emblem Engage. It was a controversial art style because it's drastically different from Three Houses and pretty much like all other entries. And I don't know, like, they went completely all out and got a different artist for this game, and the strengths that it gives it is that each character is very, very unique looking.
I know. I mean, just looking at this,
I mean, they're all very memorable. And sorry, guys, like the camera, you have some glare on there, so you can't see it very well. But, they're very, very, very well done, and I enjoyed it. But the winner is gonna, and this is like so dumb and subjective, and I get that. But, like, this is my list, so I'm going to do what I want.
It's Skatebird?
It's Skatebird. Yeah.
Let's go!
If you don't know about Skatebird, just, like, look it up. It's on the Switch. It's on Steam. It's on everything. It's so adorable. Like, so they have, like, like the chibi art style of, like, shrunken bodies and big heads, kind of. But they're birds, and like, they're still realistic looking. That's what's so adorable about it. And oh my gosh, they're just so cute. And you can put like scarves on them, different hats on them. You can like change all the accessories, and like the sounds that they make are like realistic, like bird sounds, which is adorable to me. And it just, this game captivated me the moment it was announced, and I knew I was going to buy it. And yeah, in the previous episode, I talked about how I ordered the Steam Deck, but this is one of the games that I really look forward to playing portably on the Steam Deck.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
Best boss. Bosses with the most engaging gameplay and overall experience.
Boss. My nominees are Fire Emblem Engage, again, Tears of the Kingdom, Nier Automata, and Pokemon White. Runner-up is going to be Nier Automata.
Okay.
It has... Well, this is like best boss, right? Like, we're talking about a singular boss. I cannot talk about the best boss in Nier Automata. Just play the game, beat it. You'll know why I can't talk about it. Okay, it's fantastic. The winner is going to be Tears of the Kingdom. And I swear, like, if you don't pick Tears of the Kingdom, I think you're just like wrong. I mean, I'll have to hear what your selection is. But, oh my gosh, and quick spoiler warning, okay? If you haven't played Tears of the Kingdom, skip forward 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fight with Ganondorf is amazing. Ganondorf's dialogue, the waves of enemies, everything that we've talked about in the past. You know, we already did a Tears of the Kingdom boss episode. It's amazing. It's everything that happens in that boss fight sequence is like worthy of Tears of the Kingdom, worthy of like the climax of the video game to finish it out. And the music, oh my gosh, just I don't have any complaints about it.
Yeah.
My
So I took this a little bit differently. My nominees, I broke it up by like actual, like individual boss fight. So my nominees are Colgera from Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Genova from Final Fantasy VII Remake, the Ganondorf fight from Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the Doc Ock fight from Spider-Man PS4, and the Seized Construct fight from Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. My runner-up is the Genova fight. Genova's near the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it is, in my opinion, the hardest fight in the game because the enemy, like a lot of those bosses just have like one weakness, right? This boss's weaknesses change like throughout the fight, so you're having to like re-examine your strategy throughout, not just like phases, but like every minute it's on like a rotation.
It's an elemental weakness, right?
So one part of it's an elemental weakness, and then there was a part where it was invulnerable to magic, so you have to just use physical attacks. And then there was another one where it was a different element, and then it was like not physical attacks, but not physical attacks. Like, you know how you have like your magic and your abilities, and then your abilities can either be magic based or physical based, and so it would switch to that where it'd be magic abilities but not magical spells.
Interesting.
And so it is so good. It is such a good fight. Like one of the highlights of that entire game for me. But winner's Ganondorf.
Come on now.
We said it when we talked about it, but it's a perfect fight. Like, the only thing that I would want to change, I don't know how they could do. So it's like, okay, then I'm completely fine with them not changing a single thing.
Yeah.
It is pretty much as perfect as a boss fight can be. Yeah, I mean, I could highlight those other ones. Those other fights are great. The Doc Ock fight, I'll talk about it eventually, but come on, it's Ganondorf. It's not even close.
Yeah, that's it.
Best narrative. Games with well-told stories and captivating tales.
Okay, best narrative. Now, this is a part where I'm going to start talking a little bit more about why my awards are getting the awards, because this is where I feel like we're getting into the big stuff.
Okay, all right.
So my nominees for narrative are Celeste, Eastward, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Grease, and Spider-Man PS4. All of these narratives hold a special place in my heart. My runner-up is Celeste. Celeste is a game about a girl named Madeline who has been going through a hard time. She struggles with depression and anxiety and other mental health issues. And so she goes to climb Mount Celeste. And the way that the game handles its subject matter and showcases the narrative, not just through what they say, but the gameplay itself. Because Celeste's very difficult, for me at least. That seems to be a popular opinion.
I've heard it's difficult.
Like, you die a lot. In fact, like one of the things that I'm proudest of is in one level on the B side, the harder mode, I only died 400 times before I beat it. It tracks how many times you die, and I'm like legitimately proud. I'm like, yeah, like that's better than most people do.
Oh my gosh.
And And so the fact that the nature of fighting mental health and those really, really difficult things, it's not a straight path, right? Like you're going, and then there are times where you're able to get through it and you're great and you're past it. And then there are times where you have to spend, like, I don't want to be unkind, because I'm not trying to be unkind. Like, I just want to make sure I say the words so they're not taken the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Like, the amount of time you have to spend fighting it is unfair. It's unfair that you have to spend so much time fighting these difficult things, because no human deserves to be in that much pain. And so the fact that they're able to take their narrative and weave it into like the gameplay function of how difficult it is in a way that makes sense. And then the realizations that Madeline goes through and how the game ends. I'll talk about the ending of the game later on in the show. But it is phenomenal and emotionally resonant, and I think probably the most emotionally applicable to like anybody. Like, I think anybody could play this game and be like, yes, this means something, because everyone has those difficult times, and this game reflects it in a way where it's specific to Madeline in a story, but applicable to anybody who ever's gone through like major difficulty. And as great as Celeste's narrative is, my winner is Greece. This game doesn't tell you a lot. There's no words. There's no dialogue. So all of it is told to you visually. You start the game, and Greece, your main character, falls and stumbles along for a few minutes to the point where she takes a few steps and then she falls. And then you get back up and she falls. And throughout the game as you go, you realize that what you're doing is you're taking Greece through the 5 stages of grief. And that's represented by different colors that come up as you're going through the game and all this stuff, and how one processes grief. And that's really cool and everything. But the ending reveal is what elevated it above Celeste for me, and that's that if you get all the collectibles in the game, after the credits you get this small cutscene, and it's kind of hinted to throughout the game. You see these statues of a woman that, Greece is emotionally touched by, and at the end you see a young Greece with her mom under the stars, and you realize that this entire game has been about Greece accepting the fact that her mother's died. And I am very protective and love my own mother very, very, I love her a lot, okay, is what I'm trying to get at. And so a game that handles this type of story about what you do to accept the fact that one of the most important people in your life is gone for now, is a difficult thing to do, but does it so sensitively that I was devastated by the end of it. Like, I cried for like a solid 20 minutes, and it's not because I was sad, but because of, I was sad, but also just like the hope that you feel, the memories that you have, and the love that you feel for the people that are closest to you. This game like really dug in and made it happen. And so a little bit surprising to me that a game that doesn't have any words in it at all won Best Narrative, but I can't. Will you scroll down so I can see the description that we had written out? Like, games with well-told stories and captivating tales. Every single second of this was well-told and captivating to me. So I had to give it to it.
That's really cool, though, that it's a game without dialogue that is still able to convey those kinds of emotions. That's really cool. Kind of makes me want to try it.
You should. You should.
My nominees are Tears of the Kingdom, Nier Automata, Cyberpunk 2077, and Pokemon White. I want to give another just honorable mention to Pokemon White because it tackles the concept of what if Pokemon don't want to be trapped? What if we shouldn't be doing what we do in Pokemon games to begin with? So it's kind of meta in that way. And like the quote unquote bad guys in the game are saying that, well, we shouldn't be, like, humans shouldn't be allowed to like capture Pokemon and stuff. Yeah. And that's a really cool twist from the typical story narrative that you see in Pokemon games. My runner-up is Tears of the Kingdom. It had storytelling that was much stronger than Breath of the Wild, in my opinion. Primarily because you're not just finding out what happened in the past. You're still finding out what happened in the past in Tears of the Kingdom, but it's relevant to what's happening now. There's a direct connection to what's happening now. And your understanding of what happened in the past is what's going to help you solve what's happening today. So, and the characters that were in the past, like, you interact with those characters, in the present day. So, I thought it was better. And the story is just more, I think, better tied into the game than Breath of the Wild story was. Breath of the Wild was like, here's this fantastic sandbox and great gameplay loop, and then here's some droplets of story, like, scattered throughout. Yeah. That's pretty much what it was. And honestly, I think part of it is because of Ganondorf. The existence of Ganondorf and the fact that Ganondorf is Ganondorf in that game makes the story much more compelling to begin with. Because it's not just like some mindless monster, that's like,
Right, it's a more active role in the story. Because in the other one, like, you're going around to those different dungeons, the divine beasts, to take him down. But in this one, like, Ganondorf interacts with you throughout the game.
Yes. Almost kind of like, the closest thing I can think of is like, Ganondorf and Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker, the guy form. Yeah. Anyway, the winner though is, it's Nier Automata. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but to kind of summarize the things that I brought up in our Nier Automata review episode, the story is, it's really like digestible at first. It's very simple, straightforward. Humanity is nearly extinct. They've been banished to the moon because Earth is being plagued by machines that are fighting for aliens to take over the planet. And you, as an android, are trying to save humanity by wiping out the machines on Earth. And that's what you're doing. You're going around fighting, and it's great. It's fun. And then there's little things here and there that come into play that makes you question the plot and what's happening and why you're doing what you're doing. And throughout the whole game, there's always this like sentiment of, well, androids, which are basically the machines created by humans, like, we have feelings, like, we are able to understand like what humanity is like, but machines, like the alien machines, like, they could never understand what love is or know what they're really fighting for, understand what they're doing. And that idea, which is so hypocritical, and you can tell that it's flawed to begin with, because it's like, well, you're just called an android. You're also a robot too, So if you think you understand it, but they don't, you know what I'm saying? So, and that idea gets kind of torn into pieces as you go through the story. And you start to realize that, like, the enemy that you're fighting, like, maybe they're not, like, evil, right? So it's like, well, if they're not bad, why am I even fighting? What even is the war for? And then you find out a whole bunch of other things that I won't go into depth about, because I want you to find out by playing it, that turn the story upside down completely. And it tackles a lot of, like, insanely mature themes, like the purpose of life and, you know, wars and our biased conceptions of, like, other people and stuff. And most of all, like, hope. Like, amidst all of that chaos, and, you know, we each live our lives. Life is hard, but at the end of the day, there's always hope, and we can do our best to make the world a better place and try to help those around us that we love. And all of those concepts are told beautifully, integrated into gameplay, and that's why that wins.
I have 2 questions about Nier's narrative. Is it your favorite video game narrative ever?
Yeah. It's my favorite single-player video game of all time.
Okay. My second question. Is it your favorite narrative regardless of medium in general? So including books, movies, TV shows, music, songs, if you want to get into that. But
yeah.
It is?
Before this, I would have said Interstellar was my favorite. They're pretty different, though. You know, but I think video game as a medium has more potential to be more powerful because it's interactive. And I think that's what does it for me.
Wow. There you go.
Best protagonist. Protagonists that give you the most reasons to love them.
Best protagonist.
This one I'm very intrigued to hear how you ended up going on it. So
okay. Well, okay, here's my nominees. Link, 2B, and 9S. I'm combining them into one.
Okay.
Because if you played the game, they are kind of inseparable.
Okay.
Aleer from Fire Emblem Engage.
Okay. Which one is that on here?
Aleer.
Is it the main character? Or
yep,
is it
it's the toothpaste boy. And Marsh. Can you guess what Marsh is from?
Skatebird. No. Marsh.
He's from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's that kid. My runner-up is Aleer. When the game first started, like, I don't know, the story's very simple, and you know, there's not a lot of complexity. There's like a couple of plot twists, but that's about it. And I didn't really care for him all that much, but as the story goes on, like, his life just sucks, and it's really sad. But like, he's like the most hopeful individual, you know, and it's just like he's a shining beacon of light, power of friendship kind of individual, and it's really wholesome. And you kind of see him go through these like really traumatizing things throughout the game, and he, you know, with the help of his friends, like, chooses to like keep moving forward and do everything that he can to like protect his people. And it was just wholesome, and I really liked him. Yes. I liked him more than I thought I would when I first started the game.
I mean, when you saw him, we were like, bro, this is Pepsi Colgate sponsored the game.
I know.
Well, I'm glad that it turned out to be well written and impactful.
And I mean, it's not Three Houses, but he does play more of an active role in the sense, like, he talks, there's a lot of dialogue. Like, Byleth is quite silent. Byleth is more like Link.
So I know that this character isn't necessarily the protagonist, depending on what you do in Three Houses, but Aleer versus Edelgard.
Bro, Edelgard.
There we go. That's what I thought.
Now.
Okay.
It's Edelgard. The winner's going to be 2B and 9S. So, you just heard me go off about Nier Automata, but these two characters, they are... So, like, all those things that I just said about Nier Automata's narrative, like, these two are at the forefront of all of that stuff, and discovering it and dealing with it and being told what to do from command, but also sometimes, like, wondering whether that's the right thing to do or not. And, you know, you can empathize with these protagonists because you would want to do the same thing, you know? There's like so much that I want to say, but it would spoil the game. So there's so much that make these two fantastic protagonists, and there's a reason why I can't just say 2B or 9S. Like, they are inseparable.
I was going to ask, now they're with each other, the winner of your award, and I get that, but if you had to choose one, could you choose one, or would you just... What would you have to do if you had to choose one of those characters as the more compelling or interesting? Could you do it?
I don't think I can.
You couldn't? Okay.
Because I tried to do that for this list, and then I was like, no, because what makes 2B great is because of 9S and vice versa.
That makes sense.
So, just please play the game. Play the game. Like, it's... So, like... A lot of video games, they tackle protagonists like two different ways, in my opinion. One way is to let the protagonist be silent so that the player can put themselves in their shoes as much as possible. That's what Legend of Zelda does. That's why Link is named Link, because he's the link between the player and the video game. And then you have other video games like Fire Emblem Engage, actually. You know, where the protagonist has his very clear personality. Horizon Zero Dawn is another good example. What's her name? Aloy. You know, she's got a strong personality, and make the personality of the protagonist itself, like, stand out. And I think Nier Automata somehow manages to do both at the same time, in that what the character does and how the character tackles things is, like, a lot of times what you yourself would want to do. So, like, it's easy for me to put myself in the shoes of 2B and 9S, even though they each have their own strong personalities, and they're just great.
There you go. Nice.
Who's yours?
So my nominees are Peter Parker from Spider-Man 2018, Sam from Eastward, Astrobot from Astro's Playroom.
Astrobot.
He's great. I'll tell you why in a minute. Grease from Grease, and Madeline from Celeste. Now Astrobot's great because
it's not
look
like
at the guy.
Like Wii Fit Trainer.
No. No.
Okay.
No. It's like, if you look at Astrobot, and then if you just set your controller down and let him just kind of, like, do his thing. You know how, like, Mario will have idle animations and stuff? His idle animations are so good. So good. And he's just cute. He's a cute little robot, just platforming, jumping around in his PS5. And he's great. But he is not the recipient of any award.
Oh.
My runner-up is Peter Parker. I've spoken at length.
I'm sorry. The way you said that is like, but he is not the recipient of any award.
He won Best Innovation.
No award.
He won Best Innovation. No, so Peter Parker from Spider-Man 2018. I've spoken at length about my love for the Spider-Verse series of movies on this podcast. One of the reasons is how Peter Parker is in those movies. Now, I know in the comics, there's a bunch of history with Peter Parker. So people who read the comics are going to be like, well, yeah, that's how Peter Parker's always been. But for me, someone who up until now has really only experienced Spider-Man in movies and stuff, right? You get the same story from those because of the reboots and stuff. And so in Into the Spider-Verse, you have a Spider-Man who's older. He's not just learning how to be Spider-Man in the first few years of his career. He's been Spider-Man for 20 years, and I thought that was so refreshing. In Spider-Man 2018, Peter Parker has been Spider-Man for about 8 years now, so he's pretty experienced. And he has this balance of being the quippy, sarcastic high schooler that he always has been, with knowing when to handle things like an adult. He has this balance of trusting people and assuming the best intentions, like, a kind person would, but also not being afraid to investigate when characters start, giving him bad vibes, when his spider sense starts to go off and stuff. The things that this Peter Parker experiences, some of the betrayal, some of the trauma, the relationship issues, it rounds him out as a very intriguing version of the character for me. And I really enjoyed playing as Peter Parker in this game. But my winner is Sam from Eastward. I think Sam might be my favorite video game character ever.
Huh?
What? What?
Wow. That's a big pedestal.
I think she might be. And I don't really know how to explain it. The things that Sam chooses to do in this game, again, provides a compelling look at a character, or a stereotype that I think is interesting, like the child who's meant to be more than they know that they are. That's a trope, right? And this game kind of subverts a lot of those things and presents a much more compelling look at that type of character, of the pressures that idea places on a 7-year-old kid. How a kid would realistically... She's super young.
Dang.
I don't think you're given a specific age.
Yeah.
You might be somewhere like, oh yeah, John found me so-and-so years ago.
Yeah.
But if you play the game, you know that doesn't really matter because of what Sam means. And so I just thought it was such a realistic and refreshing way to handle a character. She's incredibly fun to play as, with her little mind bubbles and stuff. And again, I'll get to this in just a few categories, but some of the things that Sam does near the end of the game just connect you to her as a character, because she isn't a stand-in for the player. She has a very set personality and archetype, but it's not like other people. Like if I were to tell you, hey, Sam's a 7-year-old girl, this is what she does, this is what she says, like, you'd be able to create like an idea of like, okay, well, this is what's going to happen to her throughout the game. And it's completely different. And so I think the storytelling with it was fantastic, and just her personality, how that changes and grows, is one of the most compelling things about that game to me, and why I still love it as much as I do.
Good stuff. Well deserved.
Best gameplay. Games with the most fun gameplay mechanics.
Best gameplay. This one was pretty hard for me.
This was hard for me too.
This was really hard. So I'm
Yeah.
actually just going to give each of these games like a little bit of a highlight. If that's
Okay, sure.
So my nominees are Astro's Playroom, Spider-Man 2018, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Did I already say Tears of the Kingdom? Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and Celeste. Astro's Playroom is on here because of the haptics. The platforming itself is really solid, and then like your bow mechanics. But the way that they used haptics and what you're doing in the game that creates those haptic effects is just like this very complementary cycle between the two of them. And there's lots of like little mini games within it where it switches up the gameplay loop a bit, and is one of the most complete like gameplay centric experiences that I've had this year. Celeste is on here for how creative I feel it is as a platformer, like the movement options that you're given and how it limits and how it relates to the story. Again, it's brilliant. Final Fantasy VII Remake is on here because that combat system is one of, if not the best ever. It's not my favorite ever. I'll tell you why in a sec, but it's good. So good.
Yeah.
Very layered, very complex, very rewarding to learn. My runner-up is Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay.
I love the explorative features, how you move around and everything. The main drawback, or the main reason that this isn't the winner itself, is the combat. I'm a big defender of this game's combat, even though it's so similar to Breath of the Wild. I feel all your, what's the right word? What word would you use? Expendables?
Abilities?
No, like like how you can just like select like a bokoblin horn and throw it at a bokoblin if you want, and that'll like knock it back.
Oh, your
exposable
perishables.
That's kind of what I'm going for, right? So those things, the fact that you can use them so many different ways, it's great. But the core gameplay of your sword and your shield, or your two-handed, or your spear, is similar enough to the game before that it didn't feel as fresh and as new. I think it's
exactly the same.
I think it's very good. But I think because it was a little familiar to me, that kept it from being the winner. And the winner is Spider-Man 2018. Combat in that game, so much fun. You're kicking people up, jumping up into the air, punching them, using webs, swinging around. It's very fun. But swinging through New York City, man. Swinging through New York City.
That's the main thing.
It's so good because
that
map is big. I did not fast travel a single time because I would rather swing through New York City than save, 4 or 5 minutes. I would rather spend those 4 or 5 minutes swinging than fast travel and skip the best part of the game.
Yeah.
The fact that they made this type of traversal in an open world game so fun, but in the same way, whereas Tears of the Kingdom's traversal can be just as fun, but it requires a bit more of you to come up with how you want to. Like Spider-Man's system is built into it. You're swinging around, you're being Spider-Man. It is so fun. So fun. From a gameplay perspective, like probably the strongest overall. There wasn't a part of the gameplay where I was like, oh, I wish this was different. Like, it is so solid.
When you said that you'd rather swing through New York City than use the fast travel, I have the same sentiment about Cyberpunk, actually. So there's like fast travel points like all over Night City, but I would rather get on my motorcycle
and drive,
weave through the tons of traffic that's downtown, to get to my destination, just because it's fun.
And I was gonna hand it over, but just to highlight, like in Spider-Man, each section of New York City has like crimes that'll pop up throughout it, so it rewards you feeling like you're Spider-Man, because as you're swinging,
like on the way there, right?
Like you get crimes and it's like, oh, report here. So you take a quick deviation, go a few blocks over, handle a petty crime real quick. And it's like, this is what Spider-Man would do. He's not just focused on the big stuff. He's taking care of little muggings in the streets and stuff. And so
it's way more immersive that way.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Just cut out the loading screen altogether.
The whole makes you feel like thing in game reviews, like I think that's super overplayed and stuff, but you feel like Spider-Man. Okay,
very good. Well, this was difficult for me too. My runner-ups are going to be Nier Automata, Tears of the Kingdom, Fire Emblem Engage, and Cyberpunk 2077.
That's a good list.
They're really good.
That's a good list.
My runner-up is gonna be Nier Automata. So when I was first putting together this list, I thought Nier Automata would win most categories. But it's interesting because as I've taken a step back and looked at all the games I've played this year, I've played a lot of good games. And Nier Automata it wins a lot, but not all of them. And this is one of those as well. Gameplay is great for all the reasons that I already talked about in this episode, so I'm not going to go into it again. But the winner, and what makes the winner so good? Fire Emblem Engage.
Wow.
Dude.
Wow.
I was thinking back on how good this game is, and I remember when I was playing it, like at the beginning of the year, I was like, this is probably my game of the year. Like, that's what I was thinking.
I remember that, like, actually. You told me that.
I don't know if Tears of the Kingdom
can beat this
game because I'm loving it so much. And the gameplay is, in my opinion, based on the Fire Emblem games that I've played, which are, I've played Awakening, I played Three Houses, and now Engage. So it's just 3. But that's,
still a decent sample.
Decent. Yeah. I think Fire Emblem Engage has the best combat gameplay mechanics of any Fire Emblem. Oh wait, I take it back. I've played one on the GBA before.
Okay.
I think it was on the GBA or one of the older ones, but it was way too hard, so I ended up quitting. Like right now, I could boot up Fire Emblem Engage in my like I've already beat the story, but I could like do some like random skirmishes and just have a good time because the gameplay is that good. And the difficulty was just right on the sweet spot for me. On hard difficulty, I started the game on hard, I finished it on hard, and it was just perfect. The abilities that the characters have, like, when you first start the game, you think it's going to be like overpowered because they're very flashy, like pretty powerful abilities, but your enemies are strong. And they also use those abilities.
Wow.
So like you need to use them and utilize them well, or you're gonna lose.
That's actually super cool because, like, you know how like in games it's very easy to feel like overpowered.
Yeah.
But for like a tactics game that's like strategy based, the fact that you don't have that upper hand is like
exactly
that's way cool.
And it's like so frustrating because like there's this one ability in particular that allows like if a unit has this ring on, it can like teleport like a whole bunch of spaces away, pop up, and then just nuke a character. And it does a ton of magic damage. And there's a lot of maps where the enemy has that ring and the enemy has that ability. So you're like inching forward. It's like, okay, I need to make sure that my guy that has low magic defense doesn't come into contact with this massive field where he could pop up out of anywhere and just kill him. So that strategy is so cool.
Dang.
And to add to that, like those rings have, different abilities, right? And you're collecting these rings like throughout the game. And depending on which type of unit you put the ring on, it'll give like different side effects, like boosts. So like one type of ring might be really good on a cavalier, but if you put it on like an armored unit, it might give you like a different buff. So like depending on how you're trying to build your characters, you can kind of move those around and see what works well for you.
Yeah. And
it's cool because like a lot of different people build these characters differently. Like there's like the most optimal builds or whatever, but you can get pretty creative and beat the game that way. So
we need to do a full episode on it. I actually have a lot of questions about it now. I feel like this kind of got overshadowed by the fact that Tears of the Kingdom came out and then you played Nier.
I know.
And like
I know.
And both at the same time, like this game came out and then I was in Europe for a while. And then in the time frames where like we kind of had a lull in gaming stuff going on, both of us had like other stuff in our other lives going on and stuff. So we'll need to do a full review at some point. We
were supposed to do a full review long before year end, but we'll get around to it one of these days.
Yeah. Okay. You ready?
Best gaming moment. Particular moments in games that highlight the glory of gaming.
Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
you go first. Before you go, I am just going to say,
Okay.
when I get into mine, like, again, I'm going to talk about each of these moments in depth, and, like, they're spoilery. A lot of them are very much near the end of these games. So when we get to mine, I'm going to give you the warning again to, like, skip ahead a few minutes. But just so you know what I'm doing, if you want to go more into depth on whatever it is, whether it's story beats or other stuff, I'm going to be doing that. So it's up to you. I'm just giving you that fair warning.
So I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't really have, like, nominees. I just have one winner for this.
Okay.
Because it just, like, I couldn't really compare it with anything else.
So do we want to go ahead and put up, like, a skip to blank moment, and when we're done editing, you can, like, find the timestamp where it's good for them to come back so it's not spoilery, so that you can go fully into depth on it? Or
I don't want to do that.
Okay.
Okay. But, well, I guess I can think of a couple different ones. I'd say the runner-up would be the ending to Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
It was just, we already talked about it.
Yeah.
The Ganon boss fight. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Super emotional. Zelda, all that stuff. The dragons. I'm gonna try to explain this the best way that I can to try to, like, compel those of you that haven't played Nier Automata to play this game. Okay. My best gaming moment is right at the end of ending E in Nier Automata. But I'm going to preface this again by saying, like, if you're a minor, really check with your parents. In fact, don't even check with your parents. I wouldn't recommend this game if you're a minor. If you're an adult, just make sure you're in a good mental state before playing Nier Automata. But we've already talked about that in our review episode. Ending E, just to give you a little bit of context to try to help you to understand without spoiling anything. You've been, like, put through the ringer emotionally. You've played through the game kind of from different perspectives. You think you have a good idea of what's going on and what's wrong with the world and why everything is just so sad. And everything just seems hopeless. And it's just like a loop of, you know, you're trying to find answers, you're trying to find hope, you're trying to figure out, like what am I even fighting for, you know, whether in game or in real life. And the final ending to this game, and that's also kind of like part of the final boss as well, it's just this, like, it gives you an insanely difficult task. It's not impossible. You actually can beat it on your own, but I couldn't. And most people have a hard time with it. And you're just like, how do I keep moving forward? Like, there's no way I can accomplish this. And then you are provided a way to accomplish it in a way that you don't really expect. And how that is provided to you is extremely meaningful. And that theme of, like, how do I say it? Like, accomplishing what you thought was possible with the help of other people, and, like, coming together to accomplish something so that like everybody can be happier and that you can make the world a better place, like that takes you to the end of the game. And it's absolutely beautiful. I really don't have anything else I can add to that.
There you go. All right. My nominees again. Go ahead and skip ahead. I'll keep it brief. 5 minutes is probably safe. Go ahead and skip ahead if you don't want to know anything story-wise about Spider-Man, Tears of the Kingdom, Grease, Celeste, Eastward, any of those games. Go ahead and skip ahead. My nominees are the Doc Ock reveal from Spider-Man PS4, the arrival of the Sages from Tears of the Kingdom, your State of Acceptance from Grease, reaching the summit in Celeste, Sam's sacrifice in Eastward, and the Tears of the Kingdom trailer saxophone swell. The Doc Ock really reveal. Good. The Doc Ock reveal. This Spider-Man universe is pretty unique. Villains that are normally villains for Spider-Man aren't villains yet. Like Norman Osborn, usually Green Goblin, isn't Green Goblin in this universe. He's not a bad guy. Oh. And that's established very early. And there's a couple others where you're like, okay, people who I thought were going to be this aren't. And so when you're playing through the game and you are... Peter Parker's career is a research assistant to Dr. Octavius. You're like, okay, he's either going to become Dr. Octopus or this is just like Norman Osborn. In this universe, he isn't a bad guy. And you go through the game, Doc Ock becomes a bad guy. That's not the surprise. The surprise is he reveals that he knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. And it's such an emotionally devastating moment because Peter's already struggling with the fact that he has to take down his mentor and the person who's been his father figure since Uncle Ben died 8 years ago. And the fact that this man knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man and is willing to kill him anyway just devastates Peter. And you feel that as the player because you feel so much time helping Dr. Octavius throughout the game. And so it really, really hurts. It's like this really intense betrayal. But it didn't win anything. The arrival of the Sages from Tears of the Kingdom. I don't feel this is very spoiler because it was in the trailer. But when they show up to help you at the end, I talked about it in one of our Tears of the Kingdom episodes. It's a very emotional moment for me. But it didn't win. Reaching the summit in Celeste. As you're going through the final level in Celeste, it gets so difficult and the music's going and the wind is blowing so hard and you finally reach the summit. And throughout the game, you're talking to like a shadow version of Madeline, who at first was an antagonist and then became like a partner. And she like represents all of Madeline's insecurities and anxieties and self-doubts. And you get to the top and the negative stuff is like, oh, wow, we did it. All right, are you ready to go? And Madeline just has this moment where she's like, let's just sit here for a second. At the end of every level in Celeste, it like fades to black and then you get this beautiful hand-drawn animation. And so you just see the backs of Madeline and her negative self sitting on top of this mountain as the sunrise is coming up. And because of how difficult it was, how I feel about that game, very emotional. But it didn't win. Sam makes a big sacrifice at the end of Eastward. It's very beautiful. I'm not going to go in any more into it than that. But I was crying a lot, but it didn't win. My runner-up is the Tears of the Kingdom trailer saxophone swell. And what I mean by that, there's that moment in the trailer where, like, all right, our last line of defense will be Link. Zelda repeats Link's name. And then it starts this, like, montage of really crazy combat moves. And the music in the background, the music's not actually in the game itself, but it has this saxophone solo that, like, reinvents and does, like, a little medley modification on the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom theme. And as it builds to this climax and then reveals the title and the release date.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah. That should be in my list too.
It's so good. Yeah. that was the moment. Like, Tears of the Kingdom kind of snuck up on me this year, where like as we got closer I was like, oh wow, Tears of the Kingdom's pretty close.
Yeah, me too.
This trailer was where the hype was like, all right, hype train is full speed, no brakes. Whew. And it's because of that moment.
Very true.
But my winner is reaching acceptance in Greece. I already mentioned the story of this game, and when you reach acceptance, the colors you've gone through: green, blue, purple, and red, through the different stages of grief. And when you get to acceptance, it all fades to white, and you've got this statue that you've seen that represents Greece's mother, right? And you're in the palm of her hand. Her hands are outstretched like this, and you're standing in the middle, looking into the eyes of your mother. And like Greece is looking down, looks up at it, starts to cry, and then like the enemies of the game, this black sludge that's been overtaking stuff that you've been clearing out, comes up and swallows Greece back up. And you're like, well, dang, this sucks. And then Greece's mom starts to sing to her. The sludge fades away. Greece returns to her mom and sings with her. And then the statue like crumbles and falls away, but the hands stay, and you, if I'm remembering this right, for whatever reason, the statue fades away, and Greece then goes off the screen, and you move on and you end the game, symbolizing that state of acceptance. Everything that I've said in the narrative award applies here. But just like the profound satisfaction and emotional payoff of accepting what has happened and finally reaching that point where, and I love how, you know, as you're about to accept, you get swallowed up by grief again, because I think that's how life is, right? Like when you go through hard things, accepting it doesn't mean that you don't feel pain anymore. It's just learning how to manage that and not let that keep you from progressing with it. Mm-hmm. And I thought that this showed that in such a poignant, beautiful way. And yeah, like as far as what I've experienced in a game this year, like again, that has stayed with me probably longer and more powerful than any other moment that I've had this year.
Would you say that that's the game that you would want people to play most because of that moment, or not necessarily?
What do you mean?
Like, if there's like one game you'd want our audience to play,
ooh,
would it be that, or would it just be your game of the year?
I want people to play Grease, but again, and we brought this up when we did the review episode, I do think it's for a specific type of person.
Sure.
I think it's for someone who like has had difficult enough life experiences where they're gonna be able to feel the payoff, because if you notice, wasn't nominated in the gameplay section.
Right.
I like how the game plays, but it's a very simple game, and it's the emotions that you're portrayed throughout the rest of the game, throughout the music and how it looks and the story and everything that makes it something more. Like if you were to make this just a kid's game and give it a different skin of paint, it wouldn't be anything to write home about because of the game. So it would just need to be for someone who's ready to accept those things, analyze the different things going on and how it layers together. So I think a lot of people could enjoy it, but I don't think it will mean as much unless you're looking for those emotional payoffs that might be a bit more subtle than you would get from other games.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I would recommend, I'd recommend it to you. I think you could absolutely enjoy this game, even though like I know gameplay is king for you and it's not necessarily something to write home for as far as gameplay, but I would still recommend it. Okay. Definitely.
Very cool.
Last but not least, Game of the Year. The best overall video games SJ and Alex played in 2023.
There we go. Game of the Year.
This has been fun.
This has been fun.
Okay.
can I just first say that we've had a lot of good games this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even just talking about good games that have come out this year, like, for like, you know, Geoff Keighley's like Game of the Year stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's gonna be really hard. Like, we've played a lot of games this year. Like, it's been a really good year for gaming.
And I'm just gonna throw this out there, right? You get 6 nominees for the Game Awards. Out of those 6, you don't have a Final Fantasy game that came out this year, which is usually a lock for a nomination.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a real indie darling, which usually gets like a obligatory nomination. You don't have Starfield. You don't have a Bethesda game that came out as Game of the Year. When's the last time that a Bethesda released a game and it wasn't nominated for Game of the Year?
I didn't even think about that. You're right. Starfield is not
was only nominated for Best RPG. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, the competition this year has been insane.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely insane. So yeah.
We've had it good.
We've had a good 2023, haven't we?
Yeah.
Okay. You want me to go first or do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Because I think mine is more predictable than yours is.
Okay.
My nominees are Nier Automata, Tears of the Kingdom, Fire Emblem Engage, and Cyberpunk 2077.
Dang, another good list.
I just want to say that I'll just say that I can't think of a runner-up right now. Wait, okay.
We didn't
I haven't told everybody.
We forgot to mention this.
I forgot to say this. I came up with that nominee list. I knew that was going to be my list, and it's going to be one of those. But I actually have not decided on my final game of the year until now, because I wanted to go through all these different categories, talk about all these games that we've played throughout the year, and then make my final decision to make sure that I thought everything through. Now, with that in mind, I don't have a runner-up because besides from the winner, the other 3 are all really, really strong games, and they're all basically runner-up to the first one. And the winner is going to be Nier Automata for all the reasons that I've already talked about. It's just incredible. And I just want to say, though, that the other games, like at the beginning of the year, Fire Emblem Engage, I think was the first AAA title that I played. And like, oh my goodness, don't pull my beard out. When I played that game, I was like, this is probably going to be my game of the year. Like, I don't know how Tears of the Kingdom can top this. That's how much I love that game. And then Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I was like, this is going to be the game of the year. Like, I love this game. And then I played Cyberpunk, actually a little bit before Tears of the Kingdom came out. I wasn't really thinking it was anywhere near a close game of the year at the time. But it got, like, patched and, like, a lot of changes to the game. And it's really, really well polished now. And it is now up there with these games. And I was telling Alex earlier, but like Cyberpunk 2077, now playing this, it's like the closest thing that I felt to when I first played Skyrim and just got completely immersed in that game.
And Skyrim is like one of your all-times.
Skyrim is top 3 favorite games of all time. And so, you know, it's not quite there, but it's close. And then I played Nier, and then I was like, this just blows every video game I've ever played out of the water. But these are all just, yeah, go ahead.
I just barely realized. You've been saying that Nier is your favorite single-player game ever, correct?
Yeah.
So you prefer it to The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy how I don't even have to think too much to make that decision.
wow.
Yeah. Right? And I make the distinction single player because, I mean, come on, we've got Smash Bros, Rivals of Aether, like stuff like that. It's just completely incomparable. But yeah, for like a sit down, play a video game by myself, like Nier Automata has been the best experience.
Wow. There you go.
Alex?
So I extended my short list to 7 for this because I wanted to highlight all of them. You've got Celeste, Grease, Spider-Man PS4, Tears of the Kingdom, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Astro's Playroom, and Eastward, which you will remember was my game of the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked how you said that, all of yours that were on your short list are runner-ups to your number one because of how good they were. And I would say something similar to this, or for mine, but I do think that my 1 and 2 have a little bit of separation from the rest of the pack. My runner-up is Grease. Yeah, this is one of those games that hit me at the right place at the right time, and again, like not recency bias because it's been done for a while. And the fact that it has stayed with me the way that it has, because of the impact that it had, is something phenomenal. And it's actually a game that I've been thinking, like, out of this list of games that I have, like, which is the first of them that I would replay? It would probably be Grease. Like, that's probably the one that I would want to repeat the most out of these, at least right now. But as much as I love Grease, pound for pound, frame for frame, the best game that I've played this year has been Tears of the Kingdom. And okay, I'm gonna nerd out here for a second.
Do it.
I went ahead and did some analytics and counted up and gave these games a point score based off of how many times they were nominated for an award, how many times, and that gave them a certain amount of points.
That's smart.
How many times they were a runner-up, which gave them more points in addition, and then how many times they won an award. And if you've been paying really close attention, you'll notice that Grease actually won 4 awards, which is more than any of my other games this year. But because Tears of the Kingdom was nominated so many times and runner-up so many times, like, overall, every single aspect of that game is so noteworthy and had the potential to be the best of something that I had played this year. In fact, I think the only award that I didn't nominate it for was, like, protagonist. I think that's the only one. And so, objectively, I think it's the greatest game I've played this year, and probably the greatest game that I've ever played. I do think objectively it's a better game than Breath of the Wild, and we'll get into that more another time. But even forgetting that, because I'm not about objective opinions, I'm about how it makes you feel, right? We make a big deal about that here.
That's right.
In Downloadable Content. 150 hours, and I don't regret a single one of them. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time.
Especially considering our only issue with it, right, is that the combat gameplay, a lot of it, it's a derivative of Breath of the Wild.
The only thing was that I wish they had changed a little bit more to it, right?
To put an additional 150 hours into that world that's a lot.
Yeah. It as a game, I think it is the most complete package of anything that you could want from a game. Like, I don't know what more it could have done besides that small gripe about combat, but it is as close to perfect. And honestly, like, if I were to give it a number rating, it would be a 10 out of 10, because it's that. It is the game of the year for me.
Very good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Can I just take a moment to go over some of what our Discord members said?
Oh, of
Were
course.
there
Of
Game
course.
of the year. Let's see. Where is it?
It starts right there.
There we go.
You want to just alternate? You want to start with JC Hansen's?
Yeah. So JC Hansen said that his game of the year is Baldur's Gate 3. He loves D&D and is just being able to play a quality campaign that gets the rules and roleplay right is amazing, he says. And that makes sense. You know, I think this is going to be the game of the year for a lot of people. I personally haven't played this game, but I've heard that it's a great game even for like D&D people.
Right. And like I probably won't play it because I'm not really a D&D person.
Sure. Yeah.
But as much as I love Tears of the Kingdom, like, and how impressive that game is, Baldur's Gate is just as, if not more, impressive with the variety of paths, the variety of how to solve problems in the game. From what's been reported on, like, it's an achievement. There's no better way to say it than, like, I don't know how they did it, but they did.
Yeah.
Grapebird, who we did a great episode with. If you want to go back and listen to our episode where we featured him, that was a really good time.
Again soon.
He says it's got to be Tears of the Kingdom for me.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Quathorn saying that his is Floppy Nights. Have you heard of that game?
I have, only because of a podcast, but like it was pretty brief. They were just like, oh yeah, this is a good game too.
He said it's not the biggest game, but I really like the concept and the art style, and the length of the game is perfect, not too long, too short. Now, I know Quathorn has also played Tears of the Kingdom, so I'd be curious to hear, you know, where that stands with his other games. And he posted like all the games that he's completed this year, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, and not only that, I want to bring up a couple that he said in addition that are also Game of the Year candidates. He finished God of War Ragnarok this year, which was a critical and commercial darling. Everyone loves that game. There was another one on here that I wanted to highlight. I mean, he's played Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which is also a big thing for a lot of people.
Pikmin 4, I hear, is super underrated.
That's the one. Yes, thank you. And yeah, so he's played a lot of games. And so the fact that Floppy Nights stands out, I'm like, dang. I kind of want to.
That good.
I kind of want to find out more about this and check it out a bit.
Now, okay, he played Blanc with his fiance. Dude, have you played Blanc with your wife?
I have it downloaded to my Switch. We haven't played it yet.
You guys better play it, or we gotta play it. That's what you first said when it was announced. You're like, dude,
let's play it.
Let's play this together.
I know.
We'll get it. Okay. All right.
I know.
All right. All right.
Maybe I'll play it with her, and then I'll come over and play with you, and I'll play the opposite animal that I played with her, so that I can.
That's
get
a
the
good
full
idea.
side, and then different experience for you and me versus me and her.
Good idea.
Okay.
Well, thank you to our Patreon supporters, Joshua, Tyler, and Grandpappy. This you make all this possible. Yeah.
When we said that these awards were presented by you, it's because of the support that you give. You know, it means a lot to us, and we hope that we are doing a good enough job at showing that appreciation to you guys. And it's pretty special to us. And we're grateful for everyone that listens, because this is episode 36. And so when you account for our Patreon episodes and our mini episodes, that takes us over 50.
Right around
We've
50.
Produced 50 episodes in a little bit over a year, and that, I don't know if I thought we were going to make it this far.
I heard a statistic from a friend that, like, what we've been able to do consistently in terms of producing episode, we're in the top 1% of all podcasts.
Right, like lots of podcasts will do like an episode or two and then they just stop.
Die out and they stop. So I'm grateful to Alex, because he doesn't live as close as to me as he used to, and he makes the drive up here to do these in-person episodes. And even though I've offered to do things remote, because he wants to bring the most quality content to you guys as possible. And we may go to remote one day, who knows? But so thanks for another great year. Thank you to all of you. And
we got lots of ideas for what's coming up. So
we'll just keep moving.
Get ready.
Okay.
We'll see you soon.